Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities, and it's going to be really an amazing experience, and I look forward to you joining me on the jar. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Mental Health Today. I'm your host, Ken Stearns, and looking forward to another great episode of bringing you, different people from different backgrounds, really all around the world. We've had people on sharing their journey, really about how they got into the mental health space, and then really what they're doing here. What are they doing to kind of help address this crisis? You saw in the little intro video, just a reminder, that was me, about 15 months ago, kind of getting some thoughts down about what I thought I would see on the road with my JAR podcast. And mental health was the common thread that really strung through all the stories. And so I started this podcast in hopes of kind of learning what I could about mental health, what people are doing in the industry and people who are working in it and how they got in it. And it's been great. We've got about 70 episodes done, 60 something published. Really interesting guests coming up. Ricardo Zulueta. I want to make sure you get the last name. Zulueta. Okay. And Zulueta. Love it.
Perfect. There you go.
And
thank you.
And really I think, Ricardo, your entry into mental health is a tough one. I mean, it's not the best way to get in, but it's not an uncommon story of tragedy, really bringing people into the mental health space to see what they could do. And I think maybe sometimes to first understand what happened, what drives people to do the things that they do, to commit suicide, what causes people to get so ill that they can't, function. And, people dive in and then they repurpose that to become part of their life. And, Ricardo, welcome. Can't wait to hear your story, how of what you're doing with Start Day One. And even though we talked a little bit backstage, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Ken. I really appreciate being invited to the show.
Yeah. I mean, Ricardo, why don't you maybe share with the audience a little bit about, what you're doing today? What is Start Day One and what are you doing? And then we can talk a little bit how you got here and we'll kind of circle back after that.
All right, cool. So, when I lost my brother to suicide, today's actually his birthday. And this is why I chose to set this date with you. I learned that depression and anxiety, just like happiness, they're not really the cause, but natural and temporary emotional responses based on our perspectives, not our situations. That's why rock stars commit suicide, while the homeless are the ones struggling to stay alive. Everyone knows to live life to the fullest, yet we continuously complain about Mondays, traffic, weather. It's only because it's human nature just to take life for granted. Sometimes we're inspired to be more hopeful when we hear a great story, or maybe appreciate life more when someone passes away, right? But the sense of inspiration, it's temporary. All the motivational quotes you're exposed to, they're mostly meaningless unless you actually make a decision about something. So after talking to thousands of people, I've learned that a negative perspective evolves into anxiety, depression, drug abuse, and eventually suicidal tendencies, right? That's kind of the end.
Yeah.
It starts with just a negative mindset, just complaining about Mondays in the beginning. But the problem, everyone's being taught to keep waiting for symptoms of depression or anxiety. And we're being told that people are depressed because they have depression. But it doesn't make any sense to say people are happy because they have happiness.
Because they have happy. Right. That sounds maybe a bit crazy.
Right. But people don't say it, but that's exactly how I hear you. I'm depressed. But that's the result. So it doesn't make sense. So I tell people it's impossible to prevent any problems without being proactive. You can't prevent cavities if you don't proactively brush your teeth. You can't prevent diabetes if you don't proactively eat a healthy diet. You can never solve your problems before you make a decision. So being accountable and making decisions is actually the only way to find solutions that'll allow you to quit that job you hate, let go of the past trauma, go on vacation, or even just start your own business. So Start Day One is a nonprofit for mental health and suicide prevention, where we have a more proactive approach to helping people instead of reactively waiting for symptoms of mental health issues or suicidal tendencies, which is what most professionals and organizations focus on. So our mission is to inspire people to change their perspectives from waiting for one day to starting day one, which means there's a day two, day three, day four. We don't get overwhelmed with our problems because we have so much to do or change. We just don't know where to start. And that's what's really important, is to start. That's why we say start day one. Everyone's exposed to inspirational day, right? Every day, but they're all meaningless unless you make a decision. So we need to change people's perspectives, because that's what influences our decisions. So when people here that are watching or listening, when you find yourself complaining or making excuses in your pursuit of happiness, or more, it's actually better, fulfillment, it's not because it's impossible. You just haven't decided to do it yet.
Wow. I mean, that's a tough message for some people.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reason is because we're teaching them the wrong things. The reason it's tough is because we're telling people, oh, Ken, you're not accountable for your depression. You're not accountable for anxiety.
Right. It's somebody else, right?
Right. Happiness is a natural thing. It'll just come to you. When you have happiness, oh my God, you'll be like me, Ken. It's the best. But why do depression, anxiety are just emotions, but they somehow focus on only two emotions, right? There's also anger, there's also jealousy, there's happiness, all that stuff, but they focus on those two, but they're only responses. So I've talked to so many people that don't understand this, because in the world today, it is a reverse. What we're saying is that people are trying to remedy the result and not the cause of things, right? It's like, so the thing is, if you remedy the result, or you try to, work on the result, if the cause is still there, what do you think is going to happen? Like, what do you mean? It's almost like, it's just going to keep happening. So you're not actually fixing anything. Basically, if you're just depressed and you take the pills because you lost someone, it's not because you all of a sudden had depression because you lost someone and now you're depressed. So that's what they're being taught, though. What's happening is you're thinking of something, or you have some kind of action. It's getting you depressed. That's why you have depression. It's not reversed. The problem, another one, it gets even worse. So organizations, and I'm talking suicide organizations, are even saying this. What they're saying is that, oh, the result is the cause. Like, wait, what? So they're making this infinite circle.
How is that possible?
Right. It's like saying, like, oh, your diabetes is there because you have diabetes. It's like, wait, what? It's like, you're not looking at the cause. You're just saying, I have diabetes and you're fucked. I'm sorry, like, you're done. But what we should be saying, the cause is an action. It's something that's happening, right? Same thing with cavities. You're not brushing your teeth. You're eating bad things. That's what you're doing. So those are the bad things that we're doing. And we're not being proactive. Everyone, which the thing is, I get that we need doctors to be reactive when it's too late. But no one is teaching to be proactive. For example, a lot of kids or a lot of organizations are saying, Ken, you have to watch for symptoms of depression. When they're not coming out of their room, that's a sign.
Yes.
To me,
yes.
Why are you waiting for someone not to come out of their room before you hug them and say you love them, or take your kid to the park? I don't get that. Because are you going to wait for cavities and go, ow, and then I'll brush my teeth? Oh, now I'll brush my teeth. What you do is you keep brushing your teeth. You just do it proactively every day, not because you have cavities, but because you're trying to prevent cavities. So everything that we're trying to tell people is like, it's all about prevention. People are talking about reaction, not prevention. Being proactive, proactivity is great for prevention, but it's also great for prediction. If you love up your kid, if you show him the way and you keep telling him and you support him, I will almost predict that that kid is going to grow up to be awesome without depression. But if you keep telling them they're a loser and they suck and the system's out to get them or whatever else it is, I'm pretty sure they're going to come up being depressed. So those are the things that I kind of try to educate people on.
Yeah, when you were talking about the preventative and then the outcomes, right? Treating outcomes, or I have, for one of the conclusions I've had in this short time, and probably 100% wrong, but it's certainly my conclusion at this point, is so much mental health, bad mental health and people struggling with their mental health ends up in hospitals as physical medical diagnosis. You end up with heart attacks, you end up with a stroke. So much of our physical health is tied into the mental health. So, even if you don't end up suicidal, you're going to end up with heart attack. You're going to end up, I don't know, stress things. You'll end up with, I don't know what other kinds of manifestations of stress and mental illness. But, if you're really struggling with your self-talk and everything, it physically will destroy you over time.
And it's because of the stress response, right?
And the stress responses, right?
Yeah, the stress response, it's your, I forget now, I'm kind of drawing a blank, but it's basically your system, right? It's your fight or flight system for people that don't know. That's what the stress response is. And so basically cortisol is the main ingredient that actually gets released because it's telling your
pumping
body
it in.
It's time to fight, The problem is today in our world, we have this idea, like, even the simplest things, because our body is meant to save us, right? Our mindset or whatever, it still thinks it's a lion going after you. So that cortisol just pumps through, so you're ready to fight or flight and sometimes freeze, right? So it really affects you physically. And again, this is very important. Those are just the results. Those are what people talk about with the mental, the chemical imbalance. Chemical imbalance is the result. You don't have a chemical imbalance and now you're depressed and now you're stressed out. Like, no, what's your perspective? That's what it really boils down to. That's why I said before, our goal is to change people's perspectives, because that's where it becomes. Once you have your perspectives, you have your beliefs. Once you have your beliefs, that's what you work on. And so people are just not being taught the wrong things. People just kind of are being taught that they can't do anything about it. And when you do that, when I say like, you mentioned on your thing before this podcast that you're trying to get rid of stigma. That was a bad move on the mental health space, trying to say that to get rid of the stigma by saying that, it's not your fault. It's a chemical imbalance. And it actually ruined more people than it helped them. Because what it did was like, Ken, there's nothing you can do about it. What do you think? If there's nothing you can do about it, what do you think the final remedy would be? Some kind of artificial pill, something. But it's because you can't do anything about it, And they take away your hope. When you take away hope, that means there's not. When you take away hope, what do you think happens to a person? There's no more hope.
Well, and especially if it's hope that I can solve this on my own. I'm partly in. Let's say responsible. Yeah, I'm responsible for my own health. I mean, I own this. But if you do,
and if you
do take that approach you're saying, it's basically give me whatever the doctor says, whatever drugs you want to put me on, I'll follow along. I'll tell you how it's going, but I'm no longer part of the solution. I'm just a victim.
Is that right? Exactly.
It's extreme, but I mean, it's extreme, but that's kind of the view. And so it could go that way.
Yes. So this is the way I would explain it. Wow. When you have diabetes, take the insulin. Go to a doctor. Go to a doctor.
Yeah, there's a fix.
Help, all that stuff, because it's too late. You're looking at the result. You already have diabetes. So people that already have depression. But what I'm saying is, when you have diabetes, stop eating sugar. Like, stop.
It might be
that's the cause.
Yeah,
right, that's the cause. Time. So just because there's insulin doesn't mean, then that means I can just keep eating sugar then. Like, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. So in the mental health, so it's easy to do that with the physical health, right? Doctors are great at reaction. Again, that's a
Yeah.
reactive approach, but that's great for when it's too late. So I'm not saying don't take insulin or don't take, antidepressants and all that. When you need that little help, then take it. But what I'm saying is, if the cause is because you just can't let go of a past
Yes.
relationship, or you just
Yeah.
won't forgive your dad that's 40 years ago, like, you've got to stop, because that's the cause. So any drugs, any yoga, anything that you do for yourself, and meditation, that's cute. I love it. It's helping you, but that's only working on the results, not the cause. So you
Yeah.
have to go that way. And the only way to do that is to proactively telling yourself every day. And people that, I've learned that people that disagree with this are the ones that are in a bad mindset, right? And to me, I have to tell them, like, I have to make you accountable to really understand what I'm saying. Like, what are you doing every day to prevent this, to feel depressed, to do this, to do, and they probably don't have any
Uh,
plans. They don't think, because no, I have depression. Right? So I have obesity, and so that's it. That's it. There's nothing I can do about it. I have cavities. Okay, like, I have cavities now. Like, that's it. I guess I won't brush my teeth anymore. So it doesn't make any sense.
that's good news. I don't have to do that anymore. Brushing my teeth, very
Yeah,
inconvenient. Um,
yeah,
yeah, you and I are
yeah.
really, you and I are simpatico on the whole root cause. I'm a big root cause person.
Hmm.
It was
That's
my
great.
corporate life. My corporate life revolved around it. So, for me, naturally, when I'm in this space, it's the same thing. I'm looking and I love what you said about sugar. The approach to
Hmm.
sugar, right? And how detrimental. I mean,
Yeah.
sugar might be one of the big soup or corn syrup, in the form of sugar. The corn syrup, that might be the biggest dietary nightmare we've got going on in the country, around
Mm.
the world. I
Yeah.
mean, we've exported the idea.
Hmm.
I just saw something today. A Mountain Dew Big Gulp from 7-Eleven's got something like 250 grams of sugar.
But right, we
It's
tell our kids on Halloween, don't eat all the candy. Why?
Yeah,
To
yeah, now we know
prevent,
why, but meanwhile, dad's got a big
right?
gulp, dad's got a big gulp
Right.
and slamming it
But
down.
right.
230 grams. It's
But
like 110% of your carbohydrate. One
yeah,
drink
wow.
is
That's
110%
crazy,
of your
right?
daily requirement for carbs. So that's
Mm.
yeah, I think your physical
And
health can really, I think a lot of people, a lot of depression today is a result of physical health. Just or it's
I
vice
think
versa. I mean, physical can be a root cause as
it
well.
I think it always starts with the mindset, but it can do
Yeah,
a never-ending circle. For example, once you gain weight, you get more depressed. When you're depressed, you gain
I don't
more
look.
weight, and then
Yeah,
boom,
yeah, I
you
don't
have
look
to
good.
stop
I
it.
don't look good. Yeah, I don't like my
Right,
look. I don't. No one's going to talk to me. I'll never date.
right.
And you start.
And
Yeah, I could see it. And
that's the
you're
importance
just
of a
down.
decision. The only way for the circle to go the other way is to decide.
Yes,
Nothing, it just doesn't happen on its own. No one ever fixes you. You always fix yourself. The most
I.
motivational people you've ever heard that went from depression to this, did they eat it like a book? Did they eat a magic pill? Or did they just change their perspective on their life? And that's what started everything. It all stems from changing your perspective,
Yeah.
period. And that's all what happens. Everyone, look at anyone. There's nothing that changes except your perspective. So that's what really we need to focus on,
Mm,
because that's what really changes where you're going to go. So, for example, everything that I talk about is really just hoping to shift people's perspectives. We're
yes.
just very inconsistent with our philosophies in mental health. One of the biggest ones that we hear: money doesn't buy happiness, right? Do you agree that money doesn't buy happiness?
Uh, it can make life a lot easier. I don't
See,
know if
I
it's,
love that
I don't,
you.
but
So
it ain't going
people
to
do
buy you.
say
It's
that,
not going to buy you happiness, but
right?
it can put you in a much better position to springboard. I mean,
Right.
it's if
So
if
there's
you're butt
two
ass
things I
poor,
so
it's
there's
a
two
little
things I
tougher.
tell people. When I say that, then why do you get surprised Robin Williams or some rock star committed suicide. Like, why are you surprised? They have the fame and the fortune. Oh my God, why would you? Like, you just said money can't buy happiness, but you are so surprised that they're not human. It's weird. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, money does buy happiness. That's why people always go, I mean, it does happiness. The problem with the quote is that people are under the impression that happiness is permanent. Just like depression,
Okay. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
temporary mindset. You're telling me there's nothing to be happy about and that there's nothing to be depressed about from here on. You think happiness is permanent? What life are
No.
you living? You know? And that's the problem. It's not that money buys happiness, but it's the continuation of that quote that doesn't work. So when people say money buys happiness, it's like, yes, it does, but it's temporary, obviously. It's not
I
permanent.
love that's such a great explanation, Ricardo. That's great. I mean,
yeah.
look,
So
when you're
just by
alone,
shifting.
yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but when you shift people's perspectives there, and they have this understanding, like, oh, wow, yeah, that's true. Like, all of a sudden, they start realizing when they're depressed, like, oh, this is just a temporary thing based on my perspectives. Well, what am I doing to shift that
Yes.
perspective? Inspiration and trauma are the ones that shifts our perspective. Inspiration is the more a positive outcome. Trauma, obviously, the negative outcome. But there's a difference.
Inspiration.
People don't know the
Yeah, say that again. Inspiration and trauma.
Yeah, inspiration
Inspire.
to me is what kind of, yeah, and it basically shifts your perspective for a positive
Yeah,
outcome.
I
Trauma
love that.
shifts your perspectives in more negative outcome, right? So you
Yes.
really just have to feed yourself with inspiration. So the problem is sometimes people don't know, where they're going. For example, when people say they're lost, right? To shift their perspective, they go, oh, okay, well, my first question is, well, where the fuck are you going? They don't know. And it's like, okay, so let me just kind of help you out here. When you're in a car and you get lost, you just put it in park and just, I'm lost. What do? What we typically do is look for a map, something like a GPS. People will say, like, oh, I'll look at my GPS. There better be a destination on that GPS, or you're just looking at a map. Like, okay, it's a map. Great.
Yeah, you're just
So, right? And so the first thing is to get a destination. And more importantly, well, why are you going to that destination? If you don't know, you're in trouble, man, because you're not going to persevere. All of a sudden, something happens on the way there, you give up like that, But if there's a big reason why you're going there, well, that's a big deal. So anyway, when people start finding out, like when you get lost, pull the fuck over, figure it out. So in the mental health space, take your time to figure out where you're going, because people are being always taught past, present, live in the present. Again, these are the inconsistent philosophies that we're teaching people. Live in the present. Like, dude, that gets you in so much trouble, So when you're in a car, and lost, you figure out your destination, you figure out your future destination, right? Where you're going to be. Learn from your past of how you got there, what people have done. The present was where you execute. So now that you know where you're going, you might have missed it 5 hours ago, 10 years ago.
Yes.
But at least now you know where you're going, right? So you might have to backtrack. You might have to go. Sometimes along the way, there's going to be traffic. There's going to be an accident. There's going to be, you get into an accident, just like life does, right? But you have to persevere. And the only way to know that is, well, you have to have a destination. You have to have a reason why you're going to go there. And that's what happens when you're driving. And I'd like telling that story because they know that that's what they do when they drive. And so now they know in their perspective for their mental health, they go, yeah, I'm just kind of complaining for no fucking reason right now. Like, I'm
just
not
driving around
looking for a solution.
Yeah, I'm driving around the block.
Right. Maybe this turn. That's not it. Maybe this turn, but you don't even know where you're going. So left, right doesn't even matter. Backwards doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So take your time, sit down. What do you want to do? Where are you trying to go? The biggest problem with that is people have this lack of purpose. Now, a lot of people know it's very important. It's very important to have purpose, right? But again, we're being taught the wrong things. You have to find your purpose. We don't find our purpose. We create it, just like startups, right? A mission is just a purpose. Purpose is just a mission. There's two important things about purpose, just like a mission statement. Number one, it has to provide value and benefit other people, not yourself. Number
Okay.
two, it must be a verb, not a noun. You can't say, I want to be a rock star, because all of a sudden it's finite. It doesn't keep going. Purpose is infinite. It keeps on going. Here's an example. Instead of the rock star saying,
Yeah.
my purpose is to be a rock star, my purpose is to inspire people with my music going through the same things that I went through so they can help have a more fulfilling life. When does that stop?
Yeah.
When does that stop?
Yeah. Maybe even after you're dead, it keeps going.
Right. But your purpose is never ending and it benefits other people.
Yeah.
When you do that, you don't focus on you, because people get depressed like, oh, I'm a loser. I'm this, I'm that. Like, I tell people, like, with your friends, do you care what they do? Like, do you really care?
No.
Guess what? They don't care about you either. They just want to know that you're a loving, friendly, all that stuff. So you have the millionaires that are depressed, and then you have people that are janitors with family and they're a grandparent, happier than any one of them. Why? Right? So, and that's what it is, because they have this sense of purpose to be the best uncle, the best grandfather, the best father, the best husband, the best whatever it is. So when you can do that, and you really develop a good purpose, and again, like, actually, I made a mistake there. It should really be a verb. It has to be something you're doing. It's usually like to inspire, to empower, to help. That's what a true purpose is.
It's interesting that the janitor is the least likely person to identify with their career.
Mm, mm. And it's funny,
If I'm a
right?
professional basketball, or if I'm Elton, like you said, if I'm Anthony Bourdain, I identify as, well, he wasn't a
And you know
chef in
what
his own
happened?
words, but he ultimately was living somebody else's purpose in a way. I'm not sure that was his purpose, what he was doing.
Yeah.
And it caught him up.
But yeah, and the thing is, like again, the purpose. What is purpose that benefits other people? Like,
Yeah.
so they lose. They don't have a purpose. They have a goal. They have a goal, not a purpose. People keep messing that up. Purpose and goal. It
Very
really
different.
struggles. Like, goal. Yeah, exactly. Like, and those are the things, like, that we need to educate people on. They're so focused on themselves, the past, all that stuff. Really, it's actually what benefits you is when you focus on other people. What value are you providing for other people? It prevents you from only focusing on yourself. For example, when you're on social media, when Ken started this podcast, he didn't go like, oh man, there's only one like, or there's only two audiences. If his purpose, and it's very strong, he wants to talk about mental health, and after what he said in the beginning here, that's a great sense of purpose. He's not going there to be the number one podcast for mental health. That's a noun. That's finite, that ends, right? So you don't care even if there's just one audience that learns something and prevents suicide, you're stoked, right? Or
it's my dream.
you don't
that's
care
the
if there's
dream.
1,000 people. Exactly. So that's what prevents. And the same thing in any realm. These people that are on social media and they didn't get their likes because they're focused on them, not the value they're providing. But when they see 2 likes, like, sweet, I motivated or inspired 2 people. If your mindset is that way, even better. Yeah. Yeah. So it's all about changing people's perspectives with life. It's like, people think that you're not supposed to go through these bad things, but it's actually necessary. What movie have you seen without conflict or a struggle or challenge? It's not a movie, man.
Not a very good one.
Any movie, not a good one. It's not a movie. A book without conflict.
You know who was the best at, like, one of the best writers for this was The Simpsons. And The Simpsons had this it's one of the reasons I believe that they stayed successful for so long, was they had an absolutely perfect formula. They always had an existential crisis, either Homer or one of the kids of the family, and they always had a crisis. And there was always this kind of, trying to solve it the wrong way, and then finally coming to the right solution. and the lesson that they
Right.
learned. And so you're right. This
Yeah.
is this is such a beautiful formula in life, right? Nobody
That's
writes
right.
a story. There has to be a crisis in there, so you can love the
It,
character, and
yeah.
and then when they
It's
get there, they struggle through the solution. You're in love.
yeah. It's important. It's not even important. It's necessary. Here's another
Yes.
point of view. When I talk about challenges and conflict, did you ever play sports or play video games or anything like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you?
Both.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
So did the level of difficulty increase or decrease as you kept playing?
Yeah. 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 It gets harder and
If it,
harder.
then why the hell are you doing it? Why? It's getting harder. So
Yes.
you actually fiend for it. You actually prefer that. And imagine kids wanting to play video games that they can beat in 1 hour, because that now you're the man. That should make you feel good. And the thing is, when it comes to real world, real life, why do you feel the same way? Every struggle, every challenge, every conflict that you've gone through, the adversity, that is what's creating a beautiful story of your book, right? So this
Mm.
actually necessary. Your book would suck without any challenges. That's why people still commit suicide, right? When they had a perfect
Yeah. It's
life,
like
perfect life,
you're
perfect life.
and you're probably committing suicide at the best moment. Like, this is your story. If you overcome this moment, you're on the other side of this. It's the best story of all.
Yeah. And the thing is, we have to change the people's perspectives on that.
And
So when you,
change the
that's all
story.
that you
Right.
change. What I love about telling people about perspective is that
Hmm.
I'm not saying your situation's all of a sudden going to change, but that's where it's going to start. Perspectives means it's the same exact situation, but your perspective shifts. Here's a great example, a quick story for you.
Hmm.
So I was snowboarding, right? I was going through the glades, meaning there's trees. They're probably like 10 feet apart. I would go down there and I would go 1, 2, 3, tree. I have to stop, almost hitting it every time. In the meantime, my friends are just cruising through and I'm going, what? You guys are nuts. So finally, I fell down again and again and again. My friend, just put snow all over me and said, like, yo, you all right? And I said, hey, I'm fine, but man, how the hell do you guys do that? And he goes, dude, stop looking at the trees. Look at the path between the trees.
Ah,
And,
yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
said, it's not the 15 years of snowboarding experience at all, right? At least that's what I'm saying in my head. So what have I got to lose? I have no choice. The only way to get out of here is to snowboard. So I got up and I said, all right, don't look at the freaking trees. Path between the trees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going, and I stopped on purpose. And I went, what was that? I didn't get any better. The weather conditions didn't change, and the trees
Yeah.
didn't fucking move. The
They
only thing
didn't
that
move.
changed was my perspective was the situation. So same exact situation, but I was able to do that. And so now I relate to
Hmm.
people that are going through alcoholism. It's not the alcohol. Stop looking at the trees. If you focus on your path, the alcohol just simply disappears. When you blame the
Yeah, you
alcohol, now
don't.
you prevent,
Interesting.
prevent, prevent, and then tree, like, oh man, if there's alcohol there, then I'm done. Like, no, because if the alcohol is the problem, there's a lot more people that should be in trouble then. If that is the cause. Again, the result is being treated as the cause. The people you're drinking is because your mindset sucks. People
Yeah.
that are suicidal, people don't need help because they're suicidal. They need help. That's why they're suicidal. You
Yes.
know what I mean? So people don't
That
understand this. Again, proactive.
God, that's the whole episode in just one sentence right there.
I hope so.
People
Yeah,
don't
just
need help because
start.
they don't need help because they're suicidal, right?
Yeah,
They
no,
need help because
they need
yeah,
help. That's
it's not
why.
what.
It's like
Yeah,
same thing
how
with
they got to become
alcoholics,
suicidal.
even drug abusers, right?
I,
Drug abusers is
I'm.
just the step. That is slow suicide, slow suicide. And suicide is the very, very end. But drug abuse, alcoholism,
Hmm,
everything else that you can think of is in between that on the way to suicide. That's what's happening. And
it's
what
on
is
the
the
way.
cause? But no one's looking at the cause. Like, what is
Hmm.
other times what I've seen, it's 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 all about the things that really get people in trouble is regret and resentment. And so I started looking at like, well, what is regret? right?
What
Regret are
is,
just
yeah.
personal experiences. Regret are just personal experiences you never forgave yourself for. You don't ever regret for someone. You regret it because
Yes.
of something you did, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? So if
Mm,
the definition is these are personal experiences you never forgave yourself for, then what's the cure? Fucking forgive yourself. Forgive yourself.
powerful.
Ken,
I
you
mean,
tried this, you tried that, coulda, woulda, shoulda. You didn't. Forgive yourself. Oh, my dad, this, that, that. So that's forgive yourself. Regret. Resentment is not forgiving someone else. Oh, but my dad beat me in this and that and this. Oh, man. Yeah, just forgive him. Just forgive him.
yeah.
Because it's only hurting you, not that dude. Not that. No one else is
He
getting
already,
hurt by your mindset except you.
he already forgot.
So,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
Ricardo,
They don't even
awesome,
know that they did something wrong.
awesome conversation. How do people get involved? How do they find you? You're out. You're obviously traveling, maybe on a speaker road or doing some stuff out there.
Yeah.
Um, how do people find you, and how do they, how do they get involved?
So if you go to startday1.org, that's our main website for the nonprofit
Okay.
foundation. Basically, what we're trying to do there is trying to raise money so that we can do things like this that are proactive, educating more people, and everything that I'm basically telling you. There's so much more that I can talk about.
Yes.
So that's the first step, and all our social media, all that stuff. And if anyone can donate, the idea is to raise enough money so that I can hire, basically share and spread this awareness to educate
Mm,
people, getting mental health people to schools. Again, people are always about the results. People like schools call for help. When do you think they call for suicide prevention speakers?
yeah, I know.
After a suicide,
When
right?
after a suicide. Yeah.
It's it's called prevention for a reason. You do it proactively. And so again, we have to keep going back. And it's everything that I talk about is common sense. So if there's anyone out there that's going like, yeah, but you're not a psychologist, psychiatrist, this, that. Yeah, I'm also not a dentist, but please brush your teeth, man. Like, I'm not a
I love
nutritionist,
that.
but
I'm not
man,
a, yeah.
like,
But yeah,
you know,
cut out the refined sugars.
right. If you could, that'd be great. I mean, if you want to go to a doctor before you do that, then all right, go for it. But I'm just letting you know, I'm talking
It's
about
probably
prevention here.
I think this is, this is something that's so powerful for me. It's one of the reasons I love the show is because I'm learning about so many of the treatments and the treatment, and a lot of these are
Yeah.
really around health. There
Mhm.
some of them are around
Yeah.
treating the actual, people struggling, and sometimes it's a real
Mhm.
physical manifestation. Something's wrong with the
Oh,
brain.
have you
But
ever?
man,
You
it's
should.
powerful.
Yeah. There's a book called Mind Over Medicine, and basically discusses
Mm,
exactly that, how the physical gets affected by your mindset alone. And that's when I really started going in deep into it about the stress response and also the relaxation response, which is what kind of counters that.
mm. Okay, I'm gonna
Yoga,
look
all that
her.
stuff is what yoga and all that stuff is what helps that. But mostly, as I dive deep into it, it's not mentioned in the book, but it's all about the perspectives. Always.
Yeah.
She was interviewing this person that was suicidal, and she said nothing helped, and this and that, and all she did was talk to the Dalai Lama, and all of a sudden she's cured. What did he give her a pill?
Ah,
What happened? What happened? What happened?
yeah.
And the only thing that always happens is a shift in perspective. That is it. She was inspired to
I'm
change, not forced to change. And
inspired
she
to
helped
change.
herself. That's what always happens. No one's ever telling you to change. And actually, that's what hurts people is when we try to change people and motivate them before you have to shift their perspective first before you even say that.
Before,
That's, yeah, because what happens is you become really freaking annoying, you know?
yeah. And,
Oh,
and
Ken, you have to get out.
yeah, and you can't, like you said, you're not going to change until that perspective shifts. And I think then you're
Mhm.
open to the message.
Right.
Ricardo,
Because the
again, thanks so
decision comes
much.
afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks so much for being a guest. I really appreciate it. Great
Yeah.
sharing. Hang around for a little bit for 30 more seconds. Thanks everybody for listening and supporting mental health today. More great speakers and great articulation today, Ricardo, on your beliefs
Thanks.
And I just love I love the idea of it starts with our own brain and getting control of that, and however we can do that to change that perspective and change how we view our lives and the things that happen to us that are actually happening for us. Again, thanks everybody for listening, and you can find us this episode and other episodes across Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also even Ricardo's piece, my Twitter. And also you'll find us on all the usual platforms. This episode, Ricardo, will be up in about 2 weeks. So thanks again, everybody. Ricardo, I'll see you in about 30 seconds, my friend.
Sounds good. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much again for everything.
See you soon, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, loose, baby.
We're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals at Public Glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glassblowing. Yeah, we're going to go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.